Yellowstone has returned this week with episode 13 of season 5, and it was the penultimate episode of the show. With a slightly elongated runtime, the episode, which was titled Give the World Away, was suited to what we watched because we saw the Dutton selling the horses and cattle in order to make the money for the taxes that they owed. As well as that, the final moments in the episode showed Kayce cooking up a plan in how he was going to save the ranch, and in his words, that was by him giving it away. Something which looked set to fulfill the prophecy and promise that was made by James Dutton in 1883, almost 140 years ago. So with that, let's dive into the episode and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 13, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. What is Kayce's plan? Right at the end of the episode, we saw that Kayce was cooking up a plan on how he was hoping to save the ranch. He used an example of Beth's car and the tax that would be paid on the car if he were to buy it off of her for simply $1, even though it was actually worth $300,000. Tax is based on what you pay for the product, not the actual value of the product. So it seems like this is how they're going to get around all of the tax and debt that they owe on the ranch. Kayce is looking to sell the ranch at a lower price than the market value in order to get around the money that they're going to need to pay. I believe he's going to do this for a couple of different reasons, as this way the ranch will be able to stay put and it'll be able to get built back up just like how Rip wants to do it, because there'll be funds available, $30 million to be exact, as that's what they raised for the horses and cattle, plus there'll be no need for them to worry about the debt that needs to be paid, because it'll be gone. We didn't find out who it was that Kayce had in mind for the purchasing of the ranch, but I think it's going to be Thomas Rainwater and Mo. Kayce is obviously close with them and they've always wanted to get their hands on a piece of that land, and this would be the prime opportunity for them to do so at such a cheap price. This is something that would also tie back to the deal that James Dutton made in 1883 with the Native American that was there that allowed James to have that piece of land as a place to settle following Elsa needing to find a place to die. The Native American said that one day his people would go back for the land, and when they wanted it, it had to be given to them. And James Dutton promised that it would be fine. So the fact that the land is pretty much going to be getting given away due to the financial side of it, I think it would make complete sense for it to go to Thomas Rainwater. If that is the case, then it's an extremely smart way for them to not only get around the money that they owe, but also the connection to the origin story of the Duttons acquiring that land. At the start of the episode, Kayce said how he wanted to get as far away from that place as possible, so it pretty much showed that he was done with it all and the land had served its purpose for the Dutton family. So that's my prediction on what's going to happen to the land and Kayce's plan. Jamie. Jamie was absolutely crumbling in this episode. The police had found out that Jamie had an intimate relationship with Sarah and that she was being looked into for the murder of John Dutton, and that could ultimately tie Jamie to the crime scene. Market Equity were even looking to try and distance themselves from Jamie and Sarah because they feared that they both could have been involved in John Dutton's death. Jamie made a threat to Beth in this episode where he said that he'd destroy the family name and legacy if she came after him because of all of the information that he knew about what the family had done over the years. Jamie was genuinely lost and he didn't know what to do, so he turned to the mother of his son, Christina. She was willing to help Jamie and gave him an option of how to approach the situation that he was in because he was the father to their child, and she believed that Jamie's legacy was their son's legacy and she didn't want it to be tainted. She advised Jamie to lean into the fact that he only knew that Sarah called the hit because she told him that she did, and there was no evidence that tied him to it or evidence that she did actually do it. It could have just been something that she said. She told him to launch a press conference and launch an investigation into Sarah's death and his father's death, and to say that they were only close because they were working on the development plan with Market Equity and that he should deny any affair that was rumored to have been happening. As well as that, she mentioned that he should lean into John Dutton's death, acknowledge and praise his convictions, and state that his murder was more than just a killing of a person. But it was the murder of the citizens of Montana's right to choose who they wanted to be elected. It was a murder of their freedom. This is a route that I can definitely see Jamie going down, and his grin definitely insinuated that he would be. And if there is genuinely no evidence that's connecting him to the murder, despite the fact that he's complicit and aware of the fact that Sarah got it ordered, he might just be able to get away with it whilst also getting the people of Montana on his side. Beth. Beth went on a quest in this episode because she wanted to make sure that Travis sold the horses responsibly and wasn't conning them out of money. When she returned back from Texas, she was overseeing the auction that dominated the episode, and by the end of it, the Duttons had made $30 million, which still wasn't enough for the family to pay off all of the money that they were soon to owe. It only bought them enough time to keep things going for around a year. We saw in this episode that John Dutton's body was ready to be released, and his funeral is set to be taking place in the next episode, as she wanted a quiet affair with only the people that John cared about, which is the family. So I feel the next episode is definitely going to be an emotional one for sure. They're going to be saying goodbye to their father and also the ranch. Plus, we're going to be saying goodbye to the show. I think she's probably going to be outraged by the approach that Jamie's going to be taking, and that will cause the rift and feud to come to a head, just like we've been anticipating. My review of the episode. I thought this was quite a good episode of the show. There wasn't a death in it, which for this season is quite a shock. It felt like an older episode of the show in the sense that there was quite a lot going on and plenty of story to get our teeth into whilst watching it. It also had some of the better acting that we've seen in this season, and it wasn't just drama-filled. There were conversations that were taking place that had meaning behind them, and we saw characters worrying about their futures, so we felt that with them. The scenes with Taylor Sheridan as Travis in just made me laugh, because why is it I feel like that's basically the type of life that I could actually see him living? Genuinely. Watching him showcase his horses was pretty cool though, and we've not seen something like that in the show for a while. I found Tita mourning Colby to be a really sad moment in the episode. You could tell that she was hurting and others around her were as well, so I praise her acting for that. The scene where Beth and her were in the bar was one that was humorous for sure. It wasn't necessarily needed, but it was nice to see the caring side of Beth, and it provided a moment of laughter. Last week, I couldn't really see a direction in which the show could end, but after Kayce's revelation and the plan that he's cooked up, I can now see an appropriate way for the show to reach its conclusion, which would allow Rip to continue to be the cowboy that he wants to be, and for the land to transfer back to who it truly belonged to over 100 years ago. Has this season been the best? No, it's definitely had its flaws, but with the funeral for John Dutton being next week and it marking the end of an era, which is Yellowstone, I think the show will most definitely go out with a bang, and I can't wait for the emotional ride that it's going to be. Even seeing the horses and cattle being sold and Beth walking through the empty stables marked the end of an era, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the show is going to conclude. So, there you have it, Yellowstone Season 5 Episode 13, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on Yellowstone, then click on the card in the top corner. I'm breaking down every episode, so there's a playlist there. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. What did you think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.